3, 2, 1.
Never has there been a better time to be alive in human history. If you're not feeling it, you must discover why. Join Matthew Bolton in developing and applying a framework of objective optimism toward a flourishing life of meaning, health, and happiness. Here's your host, Matthew Bolton.
Hello everybody, welcome to Mr. Brightside. I'm Matthew Bolton, and with me is Jason Cresswell. I've invited him here to help me out today to lay out a picture of what life in Korea looks like. So rather than have me just sit and drone on by myself, this format will be much richer and obviously a lot more fun for me and for everybody. So before I offer you his incontestable credentials as to being an expert on our topic, I'm going to offer like a personal note. Jason is my closest friend, and we're in daily contact about everything between life and work and whatever else. And he always challenges me to become better. And we've grown together since 2002 when I first met him at that time. It's also, I'm going to, if I have a chance now publicly, to thank him for his work on the show. I'm not the most tech-savvy guy, and putting together a production like this was quite intimidating to me and generally is, but I'm doing very well. And whenever I run into problems, I always had him. He would either know the answer or be able to figure it out. And I just got to say thank you so much for all that. It's unreal.
Tech support on the case.
Indeed. So so let's establish now, we've done that, let's establish your cred as an expert on all things Korea. So Jason first came to South Korea in 1999 to teach English in the city of Daegu. He knew next to nothing about the country, but was ready for a change in his life. What started as a 1-year contract turned into a 20-year adventure, and counting. After realizing you can't learn Korean by osmosis, Jason started to study the language during his second contract. Through several years of self-study, he became fluent enough that now all of his communications with his wife is done in Korean. Think about that one. After about 6 years of teaching, he co-founded a recruiting business to help introduce native English speakers to teaching jobs at both public and private schools here. The global financial crisis in 2008 changed the landscape of the industry, and due to a lack of jobs in North America, there was a sudden surplus of teachers wanting to come here, and for the first time, supply outstripped demand. So, in 2010, it was time to move on. Next came Travelers Bar and Grill, an expat bar located in the suburbs of Seoul, which Jason was the owner and manager of, and we all have a lot of memories at Travelers. Eventually, the team opened 2 more locations in the cities of Daegu and Daejeon. The bar ownership life lasted for 6 years, and while it provided some of the best memories he's had in Korea and many other people, it is also a cyclical business and a lifestyle that's difficult to sustain while still valuing health. And we're all about integration on this show. Currently, Jason does one-on-one communication classes with executives at companies such as Samsung and presentation courses at Seoul National University Hospital. All right, JC. So, while you're already earned credits as a production and content manager on the show, I'm very excited to have you as a guest on Mr. Brightside. So, thanks for giving your time today and helping us out.
Happy to be here, and the pressure is on now, building me up as the expert here. But I mean, I've been around for a little while, and I've been able to gather some kind of knowledge, and hopefully it'll help people to get a better picture of what we're doing here, and what the last 20 years has been like.
And that's just it. That's what I'm saying to people, though. I want to remind everybody before we start, though, too, that this is this is only one perspective. Although we do have 40 years between us about in the country, right? We have a lot of experience and certainly a lot of insight being married as we are. That's a lot different experience than some people get, but it's still at the end of the day just one perspective. And if you had a third foreigner in here, right, offering up, they might have a completely different view of what we're talking about. So I just want everybody to take that as we go. We have to keep that in mind, but
it's our experience.
But seriously, I think our cred is pretty good.
Yeah.
So. I've been young and single in Seoul, and young and single in Daejeon, young and single in country suburb where I met my wife, and pre-marriage there, and ultimately I've lived in the suburbs married for the last 10 years. So where have you lived? Just a quick rundown.
Okay, so the first year I was here was in Daegu. That was the first place that I arrived in, and that was in '99. I did a year there, And then after that year, I went home for a couple of months. That's when I kind of decided, okay, I think I'm going to actually do this for a little bit longer. But at that time, that was 99. Daegu was not, there's not much going on as far as Western amenities.
Yeah,
like there's no cheese, the Western restaurants was like the Pizza Hut and McDonald's and Burger King, and that was about it, right? But the Holy Land was Seoul, right? There was a lot more going on there. So anyway, so the second year I came back, which was after a couple of months after my first contract, it was in Seoul, and Seoul was several years. Then I did a year in Daejeon. We were there at the same time. After Daejeon, spent some time back in Canada, and then came back to Daegu and spent a couple more years in Daegu. And then after that, went back to Seoul, a couple more years in Seoul, and then finally moved out to the Pundang area, which is like a suburb of Seoul, just outside. And that's where the bar was. That's where Travelers was in Pundang. And so I lived around that area. Now I live a little bit outside of that area, but it is kind of the same kind of suburbs of Seoul for people who are not, familiar with the area. Right. So like about, half an hour to 40 minutes outside of Seoul, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Now in a small kind of quiet area. Went from the big cities life to small kind of.
But yours it's small, but then it's right there is Pundang, which is just happening. Yeah. And even these places that are suburbs of Seoul are just happening places, like busier than anything we've ever experienced in Canada.
Of course, yeah, for sure, for sure.
So here's what I'm gonna go for. Like I think what we'll do is I've got a bunch of listener questions. So I requested questions and listeners answered. So I've got a bunch of them. I think we'll just kind of follow along down a few of them and then group them and then kind of use that to branch off into some things I want to ask you. So I'll
give the people what they want.
Give the people what they want. That's what we're all about here. Yeah. All right. So one listener asked, one thing I really want to know is, do they really consider people who wear like a regular size here, like a woman who would wear a size 12, do they really think of them as fat?
Wow.
Well, we'll start there. It's going to get somewhere, but how would you answer that?
We're going to uncomfortable land right away. So the question was, a size 12, would that be considered fat?
Well, just generally how Western women and men come in.
Yes. They would be considered fat. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know what a size 12 is.
You mean neither exactly, but
I'm going to assume that it's like...
Think of like an athletic girl at home.
I'm going to assume it's like a little bit... Yeah, it's not a thin whatever. To be honest, like they would... Okay, I'll say it in a nice way. They would, if a Korean... We're talking about women?
Let's go... Yeah, I think so, really.
Yeah,
because
Korean woman who, if there was a size 12, would consider herself fat. And probably her friends would say that too.
They would say it to them, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
We can jump it in there.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, because that's even...
Okay, yeah, so it's very different. Like, being fat here is it's not as sensitive of a thing. Of course, it's sensitive in the way that people don't want to be overweight, but it's not so bad to tell people. Like, people have told me, people have told you, I'm sure, like when they see you, you're gained weight, or you're fat, or wow, look at your belly. Like they'll point out stuff like that we would never ever consider pointing out back home. Like you never comment on somebody's, unless it's you're looking good. Aside from that, there's no comment unless you're the closest of close friends back home, right? But here, just a general acquaintance might say, "Oh, you're putting on some weight, huh?" Like
big
that,
time.
Yeah. So, and then the natural kind of physique, genetically, is a smaller frame, is a smaller, like, even though there's no focus on the diet and that a woman might eat some really not so good stuff, a lot of times they'll still remain small and skinny, right? So it's just of genetically there is something going on where generally smaller and skinnier is kind of common here. So if you get beyond that kind of thing, then they do, that's like, in their eyes, it's overweight.
Right.
Yeah. And
they're just smaller.
Yeah.
Right. So it appears like just people seem bigger here, and they kind of interpret that as fat sometimes.
Yes.
When it's not really.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, there's certainly a pretty strong obsession with being fat or not. I would say, like, I think not any different than in the West.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody kind of, although maybe in the West people might kind of just give up a little bit more and just say, that's just the way I am. That's just the way I look, or whatever, and like, okay, accept everybody. There's a little bit less of that here, I would think. Like, it's more.
There's a lot of the focus on appearance. Would you say?
Yes.
In general,
Yeah.
how about that? Like, because we're going to go into more like culturally what Koreans are about,
Yeah.
and among them is when you brought up, like, I thought about how blunt they are. Like,
Yeah.
basically, just like, you look tired.
Right.
You look like you gained weight, or you lost weight, or
Yeah.
I said no, I just got a haircut or something. But it's like whatever. It's been that kind of stuff. They just say it directly.
Yeah.
But on top of that, there's also what was I just saying?
Obsession with appearance.
Yeah, obsession with appearance. Excuse me. So like that. There's also that thing. There's really a lot of people are always like, a lot of kids. You can speak to this in a sec, but like a lot of kids, they might describe their friend and say, "Oh, my friend is like they've written about it. Like my best friend, he's really handsome," and blah 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 or whatever. I would never comment on my friend's appearance at all when I was writing about them when I was young. This is even young kids,
Yeah.
right? Whatever. So he's funny, he's smart, and he's good looking,
Yeah.
or he's not. Oh, they go, "Oh, my friend's really fun, but he's not good looking." Like they say that. So do you know anything? Give me some of this.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I mean, there's certainly, like, appearance is a huge thing here, for sure. And, I mean, the cosmetic surgery industry is, I think, the biggest in the world is Korea, right? Like, the most, I don't know, per capita or the most whatever. I'm not sure exactly what the statistic is, but there's the most cosmetic surgery.
Oh, it's the
going
cosmetic
down
surgery of the world.
of the world.
Yeah,
is
big time.
going down here. And then another one that I saw is recently is that per capita the most spent on men's beauty products
Right. Yeah.
is spent in Korea.
They're all over it. Like the
Yeah.
K-pop guys, they kind of emulate that, don't
Yes. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, where does it come from? I mean, I'm not sure the origin of it, but to look good is a really big focus, and there's certainly a desire to fit into a certain appearance. Like there's kind of a lot of times a set appearance that is supposed to be, this is what is beautiful. So give me that nose and give me that chin and give me that appearance, and they want to look like that person. And so you have a lot of that going on where, there's a certain type of style that they want to look like, and so a lot of whatever cosmetic surgery is done in order to look that way. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's maybe a little unhealthy of an obsession, I would say, in some way.
I think it causes a lot of people a lot of
undue
undue stress.
Yes, yeah,
Undue
for sure.
stress and yeah. But
Yeah.
so
I was going to say,
if you got one more and then we'll go. Yeah.
I was going to say, as an example, like my wife and I, we don't have any kids, and so many people say, "Oh, when are you going to have a kid?" And the main reason that they want us to have a kid is because 너무 예쁠 것 같아, means the kid will be so cute, the kid would be so beautiful,
No.
that kind of thing. Now, I'm not trying to, and that's to give you a background on that. In general, like mixed kids, like a Korean and Caucasian person making a baby, does have, in general, looks. There's a benefit of mixing that to get a good-looking kid. A lot of times, right? So the reasons that people give us,
We've seen enough of them.
Yeah, right. But, the reasons that people give us to have a baby is not like you'll be so happy but they just want to know what it looks like. They want to see it. They're they think it's going to look good, so that's like the main reason that they give to
And they even add in the hinted thing like, oh, and your kid could be famous or become a celebrity, and that's
Right.
good for you somehow. And it's completely all about it's going to look good, and then you get a lot of advantages that way. And it's just okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the real deal. But let's move on to some other stuff related to it, and then good. So she says we have a real problem. The same listener, we have a real problem with sugar consumption in North America. But I heard that Asians don't really eat a lot of sugar traditionally. What in the heck do they eat for dessert traditionally? And have any of our sugary sweets made their way onto their plates?
Okay.
And we'll take it as we
Yeah,
go.
yeah. So, I think that traditionally it's true. The sugar consumption before, not so much, but now a lot higher. Like if I were to just say, when compared to when I first came here in 1999, and compared to now, like the level of sweets consumption and availability has gone through the roof, and now it's probably more, as much as a problem health-wise here than it is back home, or more so. But when I first came, I went to a bakery, and there's these like baked goods, and it looked like some bread with like a chocolate filling, right? So I saw this bread, chocolate filling. I'm like, all right, this is exactly what I need.
Good.
Yeah,
Tell me about that.
So bought this thing, brought it home, whatever, bit into it. I'm like, what is this? Figured out that it is what's called a red bean paste. It's like pot, right? Which is, it's still popular now.
Very
it's like
popular.
basically it's like made from red bean. It is not anywhere similar to chocolate. It's like a little bit sweet, but from a Western kind of what is considered sweet, not sweet at all, right? And but at that time, it was like 20 years ago, that was kind of the sweet kind of like people, and they still do consider that sweet. So
Yeah.
the sweetness level for me was not sweet at all. But for the sweetness level for Koreans was, wow, this is something that's very sweet. Yeah. So we have different kind of gauge on what is sweet, what isn't. But now that kind of thing is still available and kind of popular. But I would say like certainly Western style sweet stuff is becoming more popular, like macarons. I don't know if that's Western or not, but and then cakes, and I mean you guys have, you know, your bakeries that you go to, but kind of have like the same kind of cakes that are happening here. I mean Starbucks stuff has a lot of sweets. So and then a big trend in the last couple of years has been, what do they call it? Like the imported. They have like the imported snack stores, which is like it's just these stores with stuff either from Western imports and Japanese and other stuff, but it's like chocolate bars and like gummy bears and those kind of things.
Yeah.
And those are really popular now, where people are buying that kind of imported sweets.
Yeah, what I'd add on to the sugar thing too is like even though they're all into it, it still is that their sweet is still less sweet than ours ultimately. Like if we had a cake, we'd have a cake and then icing all over it, right?
Yes.
And then something else on drizzle on top of that. They kind of like it. That's too sweet.
Yeah.
So they're still kind of like that. But at the same time, I go into like a supermarket or whatever, and the whole aisle and the whole shelf along the way is all just like the kind of packaged cookies and chocolate, this and that. It's like all that boxed, packaged stuff, which is kind of the worst.
Right.
So they're all just filling their shopping carts with it because they're going home and having parties at night in their house.
And then maybe
And you're
another
seeing
thing
it
would
on
be
them.
right, for sure, yes. So another example would be like at Starbucks. You know, people are definitely getting the mocha whatever whipping cream filled like chocolate syrup drizzle, whatever, like the sweetest of the sweet things. Even me now, like although I love sweet stuff, but even I almost can't handle one of those. But it's certainly, so that's about as sweet as you can get, and certainly that's getting consumed. And what you were saying about the
aisles in the supermarkets.
and I would also say that connecting the first question about the size of people, certainly I've noticed that there are more overweight people now than there were 20 years ago. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and kids especially.
Yes, big time.
Yeah.
And by the way, just as to what they eat traditionally, I would answer that by saying it was fruit usually. So dessert would be like they cut up a pear or an apple or some mandarin or something and put it out on the thing, and it's just a bunch of fruit.
Oh yes,
So that's what they would eat for dessert.
Yeah, it's not. I realized after being here for some time that like the idea of dessert as being part of a meal, like you eat dinner and then you have dessert as being like an automatic thing, that is a very Western thing. It's not necessary to have dessert. That's right. Like it's not like thinking back home when I was a kid, right? It was like supper, dessert, like for sure. Like that's automatic, right? Mm-hmm. But here it's not.
Right, that's true. Okay, now let's go into another question about kimchi. Where does that tradition come from? I mean, we don't have to be necessarily be Wikipedia and all the things. You can look this up, but if you have a comment on it, and is it basically a Korean equivalent of a salad today in North America, or what can North Americans equate to kimchi, if anything? And maybe give us a bit of what is like, how do people eat kimchi and stuff? I'll add as well. What do you think? Give us the lowdown on that. Quick one.
I'm not a kimchi expert as far as the history of it goes.
No,
but
that's fine. Just tell us
what
about
I do
kimchi.
know. What I do know is that it's fermented, right? And the idea is that it can stay over the course of the winter. So it's something that you can have. They make it in the fall so that they make enough of it so that it lasts the whole winter. Right? Because we're talking like pre-electricity, pre-refrigeration. That you make something and then store it in a big pot.
That's right.
Right,
Those
outside
kimchi
kind of
pots.
thing, right?
Bury them in the ground.
And the by doing that kind of fermenting process, I think that's what allows it to last throughout the whole winter. Right. So they make enough of it in the fall so that it lasts throughout the whole winter. So I think that's the kind of the purpose of it, is because it can last through the winter.
How do they eat it today then?
So now today, I would say it's not potatoes on a dish. It's maybe some other, and it's not a salad.
No.
It's certainly not a salad as we would kind of do it. It's just like some other little, let's say you're having steak and potatoes and you do a couple of asparagus. It's like the asparagus. It's like a little bonus something that's part of the meal, but it's not like the main part. I would say, you know what I mean? It's like, It's kind of like some other, here they call it's like a side dish, right?
That's right.
So you have your main meal, and then, of course, it's
Give
used
us a quick outline of that then. What does a meal look like, a Korean meal? What are they? Because it looks way different than us. We get a plate and it's got your meat and your veggies and your potato, whatever, and then a couple things like maybe some bread or salad. But they've got, what does it look like?
I think it's the idea
like at home maybe.
Yeah, there's just more dishes, like actual dishes, right? So you have your main, let's say, of course, rice and let's say a soup or something like that. But then there's always some other side little veggie dishes, including kimchi, including some other kind of. So there's always like a variety of things, and especially like if you go to a restaurant, depending on the style of the restaurant, you might get 20 different little things to pick at.
That's right.
But even at home, I think in general people like to have several little items they call it panchan. It's like side dish is basically the thing. So you'll have your main thing, which almost always includes rice and maybe some kind of meat or something. But then there's a whole variety of stuff that people just like to pick at. So it's a lot more stuff happening than what we would be.
It's crazy. And imagine just doing the dishes all the time. These restaurants and all that. I just find it like it's unreal. Like what they give you just as you order a meat, and then you get all that stuff that just comes out, and then you can keep refilling it. Right? You say, I want more of this little salad one. I want more of this little one, and they just keep giving it to you for free. And
that's one of the things that's surprising. How
do they make any money? Right?
Yeah, you just keep on ordering. Like if there's one that you like, you just keep on ordering it. And sometimes it seems like if nobody's eating one, it seems a little bit of a waste, but it's almost there. Like just in case somebody wants this one,
that's right,
and you want that one, but it's all there. But the person doing the dishes has got to be a nightmare. I assume that at home it depends on the situation, but I think a lot of times they have like a whole bunch of those in like some kind of Tupperware.
Yes.
And then, if they're not trying to be fancy, if it's just a family thing, I think they'll just take out like a few of these Tupperware ones and you just kind of go from there.
Yes.
As opposed to trying to make it into all those dishes. I think it depends on if somebody's over or not, or if you're just like your husband's having whatever with the kids and you're having a meal and you just kind of eat out of the Tupperware.
Yes.
That's got to be happening too.
I wanted to say on the kimchi for people, this is what I say to people too. It's like a lot of it has like a marketing issue, right? Because when you say fermented cabbage or pickled cabbage, they kind of like spicy pickled cabbage. They go what? And then if you say something like, well, it's kind of like spicy Korean sauerkraut, and they go, oh, sauerkraut, that sounds good, right? Yeah. And it's the same thing I find. So it is basically like a sauerkraut, right? Mm. That's how you can think of it, and you put it on. You can have it with a bite of meat, or you just have it as a bite and kind of refresh yourself or something.
Like
and
a
have
coleslaw, almost.
Like a coleslaw more than a salad. A coleslaw is not really, you wouldn't call that a salad. Yeah. Sure, I'll call that. Yeah. The other one that I have is the UK, which is the raw meat kind of thing, raw beef. Yeah. And if you say raw beef to people, they're going to get turned off. right? If you say beef sashimi, they might kind of think, oh, that sounds a little better. But if you just kind of say, oh, it's like kind of a sweeter Korean beef tartare, and they go, oh, beef tartare, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So it really is a marketing issue sometimes
Sure.
how you put these things, right?
Yeah.
Fermented cabbage doesn't sound good, but kimchi is like, it's an acquired taste, but when you acquire it, you don't go back, isn't it?
I will claim that a lot of times I think, even though we say, oh, kimchi, like Koreans always eat kimchi, I feel like sometimes I eat more kimchi than the Koreans I'm with. Like if I go out to a pork restaurant, I'm like the only one eating the kimchi. So, it is.
Yeah. But yet they have it at their house all the time, and they're just like, I'm out to get this stuff.
Right. So, the first time, in the early days, I was not interested at all. But it is one of those really like strong acquired tastes where when you get it, and then you're like, oh, and it has that almost like addictive kind of thing to it where you're like, I just need more of this.
Yeah, I was about 3 months in maybe before I got it, and then never looked back. So I want to ask you, like, and so maybe what are there for foreigners then for dining? Because most people, a lot of foreigners, they come here and then they live for a year, say, do a contract, and then they go back. Mm-hmm. And what they're missing, like, I miss Korean food. I got to get back. And what people love is the food. So what is there for foreigners in Korea? Because a lot of this stuff might not sound so great. So let's talk about what's good for foreigners, just in general, and then also what is like the dining culture and all that. How is that different than Western culture? I think this is kind of a fun topic, and we'll do this for a little bit, and then we'll move on to something else.
So when you say what is there for foreigners, do you mean as in foreign food, or what are some of the foreign things that are or local things that us foreigners
the
like?
latter? I guess I mean both. I guess it is true. Like, okay, I mean, I'll just say really quickly, you can get whatever you want, right?
Now you can get whatever you want.
Burgers, sandwiches, there's Subway, there's McDonald's, there's Burger King, there's KFC, there's Starbucks, there's Dunkin',
there's other
there's
stuff,
everything.
like there's Thai, there's
Shake
Vietnamese,
Shack.
there's whatever. Yeah.
And there's everything.
Everything now.
Everything.
Not
in the world
true
you
when
want.
I first came.
That's true.
Not true when I first
And
came.
especially in the smaller towns.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Now, way more choices. So yeah, whatever you want, kind of thing, you can pretty much get now.
You can pretty much get. So, but I was more interested in what is there about Korean, like, or do you have something to say about that?
No, I was just going to say. So on the other one, like if I were to think of what is it that like if you get a group of non-Koreans, like we always say foreigners. I don't know if that makes sense to people. We're the foreigners.
I know.
I mean, we're very used to that now. But anyway,
that's the word.
But somebody back home might be thinking, "Who's the foreigner? The foreigners or the Koreans?" No, we're the foreigners. So if you get a group of non-Koreans, foreigners, together and they're going out to eat Korean stuff, in that case, I would say a lot of it you see would be dakgalbi, which is like a spicy chicken thing. It's like some chicken mixed with some spice and some vegetables and stuff like that. That's a very common one. Mm-hmm. And
let's bring them off here. Dakgalbi.
Dakgalbi is a big one. These days, that's more Chinese, but I was going to say lamb. Lamb skewers is a common one, but that's a little more Chinese than it is Korean. Mm-hmm. Of course, samgyeopsal, which is pork belly. The whole this is probably something that most people are familiar with. Whatever, Korean barbecue, where you have
Korean barbecue. It's
where
famous,
you're sitting
right?
at the table.
What's Korean barbecue? It's famous. Everybody's heard of it, right?
Right.
What is it?
So back home now, people know Korean barbecue, right? The basic idea is you're sitting at a table with fire, and you're cooking your own meat. So this kind of the meat. There's obviously a whole bunch of different kinds. You can go to a beef focused place, or you can go to a pork focused place, or something that has whatever different stuff. But anyway, samgyeopsal, the pork belly is one of the biggest ones, and you're just sitting there cooking up and it has that whole several side dish thing that we mentioned. But the appeal of it, I guess, is that you're sitting there with raw meat. You put it on the fire. You're cooking it yourself, and you order by like whatever, couple of 100 grams. Like, okay, give us another 200 grams of meat, and then usually involves alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, if we talk about the other thing that's surprising for newcomers, I guess, would be the sharing. When we're talking about all these side dishes, that means that everybody's eating out of the same dish.
Yeah, and not exactly the same bowl. I mean, with the soup it is, but I mean, you're picking off the same barbecue, like off the grill, and putting meat in your mouth. It's cut up into individual pieces. And
But even like I'm talking about like the side
dishes,
ones,
the kimchi.
like
I'm grabbing the kimchi, and then you're grabbing a piece right off the same little dish.
Yeah, right. The salads, whatever. So there is definitely a lot more communal. And then if you want to talk about like another, where that extends to, if you go to like a place like a popular one here is Outback restaurant, which is a steakhouse. So if you go to a steakhouse here, in the Korean style, they're not ordering like we go to Outback. What are you getting? I'm getting the T-bone. Okay. What are you getting? I'm going
to get a pasta.
I'm getting a pasta. Okay. And then you eat that. But in Korea, they'll order, even at a Western restaurant like that, to share.
Right. It's all about sharing.
It's all about sharing. Like if there's a pasta, we're all eating the pasta.
That's right.
If it's a steak, we're cutting up the steak and we're sharing the steak. And whatever, So even at a restaurant like that, it's all about ordering as a group, which is a big difference compared to what we're used to, for sure.
That's big time. And there's all kinds, probably a lot more to say about food, but we'll just move along to some other stuff here too. So I've got a question from Allison Neville, and full disclosure, this is my niece. So and she was actually born the year I came here, 2002. Wow. Yeah, and McKenna was born in 2002 as well. Is that right? Is that? Yeah, I think so. So let's see. I don't want to put Uncle Jason on the spot. Man,
testing my memory.
Missed it. But that's your first niece as well. So that's kind of interesting. 2002 when I came to Korea. So Ali's asking, how does school and classes work in the earlier ages, like elementary? Like, how are they graded? How big are their classes? What subjects do they focus on? Basically, why is their curriculum so much better than ours, even from the really young ages? And I'll say, Ali, it's a bit of a loaded question. Even on Heian said, she was like, well, why would she assume it's better, right? But we'll lay it out and you can decide.
Yeah.
But so I guess basically,
I got it.
Give me some. Oh, you got it. Okay. Give me a start.
I'll start off by saying that I've never worked in a public school, right? So maybe people who have a better idea. But to knock off a couple of the questions, first, class size, big. Like, I don't know exactly the numbers, but maybe 40, 50.
Yeah, I think it's getting down to 30 now, though. I was actually talking with, I think it's about 30. It used to be when my wife was young, our generation, when we would go to school, it used to be like 60 when she went to school. But these days it is somewhere in the 30s and around there. Yeah. And that's what most of my kids report too, around that 30s. I have come into the house here and all that we teach. Yeah, so. But anyway,
so
go ahead.
So big class sizes. I don't know back home now what they're dealing with, if they're dealing with 30 or not. But
we used to be 30.
Yeah. But class size is pretty big. With the idea of why is the curriculum better? That's a good question. But I don't know necessarily if the curriculum is better. What I would say is, in my opinion, generally we can say like the results are better. The results. Yeah. I think that at a same age, a Korean kid knows a lot more than a Western kid in a test, especially math and science. So,
agree.
Right. So, better or not is a debatable thing. Do they know a lot more stuff? Like as far as especially math and science goes, for sure. But I don't know if that necessarily comes from the school curriculum. I think what it comes from is that the learning doesn't stop at school. Like, I think a lot of the way it's looked at is school is just like you learn some of the stuff there, but it's the after-school academies where they're really adding on to what we would be doing back home.
Yeah, so sometimes I say that I feel like they supplement it almost, like it's not even adding, it's more like...
It's supplement, yeah. I think almost the idea is if you're in grade 2, that you want to be like in grade 4 by going to different academies, and they want to almost like learn all the stuff that somebody would be learning. Like if somebody didn't go to these after school academies that are here, which are here for any math, science, English, piano, whatever. There's any subject that there is. There's also after school academies that people could go to. But I think if somebody just went to their normal school, like they feel like they're way behind.
Oh yeah.
compared to the normal idea is you have to do your math academy and science academy and English academy and all that supplemental stuff. So I think the not that the curriculum might be better, but the expectations are way higher as to how much they want to stuff into the brain, like as soon and as early as possible. So I think throughout the schooling, like I keep coming back to math and science because I feel like there's a huge gap there. Like the stuff that the kids are doing, when they're younger or in middle school or high school is way beyond what we're doing.
That's right.
Way beyond.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing or not? I'm not sure.
Well, it depends on what, at the cost of what too, because like when I think of math, sometimes, right, I think that any subject is generally and ought to be kind of geared towards using it as an example of how to think about something, right? Not just what is the answer. And I think they're all about the answers because it's basically the whole thing from the top bottom is about getting to a next level. Like when you said behind, it was very interesting to me because I thought, it's somehow about a comparison. It's about behind what, right? And to get where and to get what and for what purpose. And it seems like it starts from the top of like what university you want to go to, and the whole thing is geared to like try to get into that university. And if you don't, well, I guess your life's pretty much going to be garbage if you don't get into the right uni.
And that all comes to the big test, right? The university entrance exam. I think all of it from the first grade is all building up to being ready for that one university entrance exam, which they have here, which is this huge exam that they have in their last year of high school, which decides, this one exam basically decides what level of university that they can go to. And everything is building up to, the elementary school stuff is building up so that they're better to go to a decent middle school. And the middle school stuff is, trying to get ahead of the game to prepare for the high school. And the high school, like it's all leading up to this one test. Yeah. From I think from the very beginning.
What it seems, so this is hence these private Hagwons. We haven't really given a really clear thing of what it is. Like these Hagwons, which are private academies, people, they go to school, the public school, and then they go to it's a whole private system of academies, and they go to math academy, then they go to science academy, they go to an English academy, maybe they go to an art academy, it depends, piano or something like that or whatever, and they'll go to maybe a social studies academy. In some cases we have a friend who has a academy like that, and so they go to all these things, and the idea is to get them ready to get to earn the score on that entrance exam. Right. And my wife even put it to me, the idea that schools now are almost, the public schools are almost like that. You go and you kind of get an official graduation kind of thing to move around. But the Hagwons are the ones who are preparing the kids. And parents feel like if my kid's not in there, they're not getting ahead. Yeah. Right. And these kids, like, and just to give a picture for people, because maybe they don't know, right? As like these kids are going to school, then they're going to Hagwons, and they're not going home till like 10 o'clock p.m. Right? It used to be worse when my wife was young and all that, but it's still like that. And 10, 11 p.m. This is high school, even junior high. Yeah. So it's up till then going to school.
Right. So I mean, it's almost, to answer Allison's question a little bit, it's like a matter of the volume of studying. Like if back home, I don't know if kids finish at 3 o'clock or 3:30 or whenever school finishes, it's pretty much finished for the most part. Like imagine that you keep on studying until 10 o'clock at night. Like from whatever time you go to school, and then you keep on going, and then once 3:30, that's the start of the day. Like that's when you almost start to study. So when you're going home, when all your friends are going home and going to play soccer or doing whatever, like that's when they really get going, and that's when they start. So I mean, you're doing like, would you easily say it's double the amount of studying?
I should at least think more. Yeah,
at least double the amount of studying that kids in Canada do. Yeah. So is that better? I don't know if better is the word, but it's a higher volume, and it's like if your only goal was to do better on one or some kind of test, it prepares you for that. Right. But does it prepare you for life? Does it make you creative? Does it, there's, I mean, we could go on for a long time talking about the advantages and disadvantages of this. But if Allison's wondering, like, why do they maybe outrank us in scores on like a math test or on that kind of thing? It's just it's like the amount of volume. It's just they're studying twice as long as Canadian kids.
That's right.
Easily.
And I'll give it. I don't want to go into again. We're trying to put a picture here
Yes,
today.
not whether it's
not
good or
comment
bad.
on or whatever.
Yeah.
But as per a picture, I always have this image, and I have a lot of other ones I could go on. But I'll give one, and it's when I was teaching at a summer camp or whatever, and then they had a math kind of thing, and I kind of said, I'll do the math classes, right? Because it was fun. It was elementary math, so I was okay. But I was doing like word problems. I thought word problems are a great thing for them to do because it's like problems in English. Can you understand what the thing is doing? It's like, kind of combining it all, and they're fun. And I used to think they're fun. So it's like basically word problems. How you got this much pizza and this many friends and and all this stuff, right? And maybe a little more complicated. And they are all just begging me to tell them what the equation is so they could solve the equation and show me. And I was like, no, but look, like how many friends? And I was trying to show them how to ask the right questions. And they were just like losing their minds, freaking out because they want to show the answer. They want to know the answer, and they just wanted to get the equation. And I was telling them, the whole solution, if you want to please me, the teacher, the whole solution is getting the equation. I don't care if you know how to solve the equation. Like, get the equation. That's the problem. Right. You're going to solve it. And they just couldn't wrap their heads around it. And they were getting antsy and panicky about it, and I just thought, like, what is going on here? And now I will say that my wife has said that these days it seems to be they're moving more like that. Word problems are becoming a lot more of what they're focusing on, that kind of thing, rather than just give me the answer. But it seems to be a lot of, and I see it in my own English conversation classes, that people are really scared to kind of speak up and be wrong. Mm-hmm. It's a lot about, I'm scared to be wrong because it's right and wrong. Whereas at home, I think a lot of kids feel free to be like, just how do you think about it? Like, and then, okay, well, and help them ask the right questions, I think. Yeah. Ideally, but we don't really get a lot of that.
So, I mean, it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to do very well on a test, and then what they have going works a lot better. But if you're trying to go for something more well-rounded, maybe it might not be so good.
That's it. We'll wrap it up there because we're not going to get into educational theory and all that stuff. So, but connected to the education, why do Koreans want to learn English so badly that native English speakers can make a living teaching them? So, right, and like, what do they need to know English for? Do they plan to leave Korea? And what are some of the top jobs Koreans aspire to when they grow up? So, but let's see, why do they need English? Why is it such a big thing here? It's a huge industry. It's our livelihood.
Yeah, yeah. I've thought about this a little bit, and I think the kind of one of the reasons is that I think Korea is an export economy. So, country itself, maybe we're like 50 million people. Back in the day, it was like 40, 30 million people not too long ago, and the majority of, I think, what the GDP would be is from exporting stuff. So you have big companies like Samsung, Hyundai, who are exporting to other countries. So the like, I asked my Samsung guys, like, their domestic market of sales is maybe, I don't know, 1% or something like that. Like, it's tiny of the domestic, although it's such a huge company here, and like, everybody's Samsung everywhere and they advertise, and but it's like a small fraction of their overall sales.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
I mean, I assume because Koreans are pretty loyal to buying Korean.
Of course, but it's
brands,
right? It's a tiny percent of their market. So Samsung is like, as the biggest company, is like it's an export country, right? So if you're a country that depends on exporting, that means you're going to be having to do business outside of Korea, which means you're going to have somebody who can communicate. So I think that's kind of the starting point of it, right? The real, a real good reason. But at some point, it just became a thing where you have to, like, to get a job at one of these companies, being able to speak English is one of the kind of basic job requirements, and even for university entrance, I think it's another requirement for some things, right? You have to have some level of English. So it's the global language, right? The language of business. That's what people. So
the language of business. That's I would put it that way too.
So I think it's seen now as, if you want to get a good job, you have to speak English. I think the question also included, like, are people planning on living or moving out of Korea?
That's right.
I think some want to. Some have the dream of moving to the U.S. or moving to Canada or moving somewhere outside
in Europe
of Korea.
and Australia. They just New Zealand.
Some people want that as a permanent thing. Some people want that as a just an opportunity to go and live abroad and study. I think now, travel to other countries now is a big thing. Mm-hmm. People like to travel to wherever. So having the language ability is helpful there. But I think it all comes down to, if I can speak English, I can get a better job.
Yeah.
Now, do they actually have to use that English in most jobs? Not in most of them, but in some of them, yes. And a lot of people, they also want to have, like, again, Samsung guys. Most of them want to have that opportunity to go get sent to whatever country to work. Right? They're working in Korea now, and they might get sent to wherever for a couple of years to work. Go to Europe, go to London, whatever. And then the pay is good for that, and they're provided a house, and then their kids can go to an international school. So all those things. So it's just seen as an advantage.
Yeah.
To move up.
And I think I'll add too. Like I know some of the younger kids I teach, they don't get. It's more like their parents are trying to say, to get a good job, you have to do this. So they kind of see it as some kind of duty. But a lot of the university kids I have, and some of the young ones have a sense of it, but the university kids that I teach, they kind of seem to think too, like it's like a way to kind of connect to the world or something like that, like not really be stuck in Korea, and also just enrich their lives. They get that idea, like they can kind of, because again, they understand that Korea is a small place and people don't speak Korean outside of Korea. Yeah. Now it is true, a lot of some of the Southeast Asian countries, Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, they kind of look to Korea as like a very big place, the way other countries might have looked at Western countries before in English. Right. So they are learning Korean. They want to learn Korean so they can come and upgrade their own lives in Korea. So Korea in itself it's getting its own like cred, or like its own value, I guess, currency. But English still is the global language of business, and just to expand their lives. So they kind of get that sense that I want to like talk to foreigners. I want to get out of the Korean bubble and experience culture. And you can do that most directly by understanding the language. So it's a lot of that too. Yeah. It's part of that. But it really is about jobs.
Right.
Good future. But they're getting a sense of that, and I like that.
Yeah. I think it is. Yeah. Like in a lot of jobs, it does actually apply. Like one of my guys that I work with, he's involved in or interested in AI, artificial intelligence. And one of the things we talk about is, the majority of the research that's out there is going to be in English. And that applies not just to AI, that applies to basically anything. Like, just think of medical fields or anything, right? If you're a doctor, if you're an AI guy, or if you're whatever field you're in, and you need to go and understand more about that field, the research that's being done, the research that's being published is not all, but mostly going to be in English. So if he only was able to research and read articles published in Korean on AI, that would be such a small amount, and he would be missing out on all this other stuff. So
or like a secondary source.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So then you have to wait for somebody, some other guy, to translate it into Korean or something like that, right? So you're missing out on so much information. So I think it really is a thing now where, if you have the language ability, you have access to so much more information.
Yeah, big time. I see it. So moving on then, I'm going to look into like gender roles, right? And so to what degree is Korea maybe, is it a sexist culture in any way? What is what they're looking for here? Are little girls and little boys sent on different paths based on their gender? And are they restricted from anything because of their gender? So how are we going to navigate this? Just, give it straight, I guess. What is going on with Korea? Because it's, it's a lot different now. I'll put out beforehand. Right, preface it with it's a lot different than say when my wife was young, but yet there's still stuff, and a lot of it comes from the Confucian tradition, right? And then that generation's still alive, and they pass it on. So there's a lot of stuff. So give me what it looks like to you anyway, if not the history, but just what does it look like?
I still think that there's the kind of expectation that the girl will eventually become the wife, and who will eventually become the mother, and who will eventually, have that role of stay-home mom eventually. So I mean, if the question is, are we are they looking at the same career path, that kind of thing? Not quite. I don't think. I think there are expectations that the woman will eventually become a mother. I mean, in the big picture of things, right? So it's like wife, mother, and probably, but I think there's a lot more of going back to work. I mean, it used to be, in general, I think once you're maybe no work, but that's really old school. But work, get married, have children, and then that would be the end of the career. But I think there's a lot more now where that they would, stay home for a while, maybe until the kids are a certain age, and then go back to work is more common. But I would say not so much as there is back home. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking of that. I'm looking at the schools right now, my university, on my campus. I feel like I see more girls and guys on it, almost like similar to Western campuses, isn't it?
Yep.
So they're just kind of, but yet, and now a lot of them are talking about they're not really interested in even marriage sometimes, and kids and all that, right?
Yeah.
But some are.
Yeah.
But it still is that thing.
Right. It seems like the path. It almost seems strange, right? It's like it almost seems in some way, in some cases, and not as much anymore, but where the whole idea of going to university and then getting a job was only for a few years, like all of this leading up to a few years, and then you're done for a woman. And I always feel like the students, the girl students are, I always enjoyed, like whenever I was teaching kids, whatever, the girl students study harder and are more focused and then seem to just do better in general than the boys, right? And just more focused and that kind of thing. But it seemed like the whole process of getting to that point and then going to university and then getting a job and then you're kind of done. Okay. So, but not so much now.
Okay. So what about within the family then, like the oldest son and all this stuff, and how do we, how does it, like that kind of stuff? Is that something you can give us a little quickly, maybe?
Okay.
Like, what is that?
I would say that when getting married, there's still the idea that the word belong to is a little bit strong, but that when a woman gets married, that when there are the big family holidays, the Lunar New Year's and Chuseok, the Korean Thanksgiving, like for those kind of holidays, generally the women are expected to go to the husband's side, and sometimes they'll visit both sides, but the idea still is that she is now kind of sent off.
She's part of that family, yeah.
Yeah,
like back in the day, you should actually put them on a cart and with the dowry, and they go off, right? But now it's not like that, but it still is something.
Not
like
as
that.
much, but still, her responsibility is more toward her husband's family than her own family. Okay. And if it's a holiday and we're only going to visit one person, probably it's the husband's side.
Yeah. And back in the day, I think I'll just add on here, like the idea, what I'm thinking of the oldest son is back in the day they really wanted a son because the idea is the oldest son kind of gets a lot of advantages, like it's the title to the estate and all this stuff, but yet he's expected to take care of the parents in the old age, so he's the one responsible for them, right? Whereas everybody else is not. Yeah. So you kind of get perks, but you get a lot of responsibilities. And it's kind of like that now, but not so much anymore. And I see a lot of like guys that we know, they're all like, a lot of them are just like, now I really love a daughter there, so they'd be so sweet, like, and I would just love it. So they kind of like don't really care anymore, but they used to care. Right. So
to at least have a son, yeah.
Like
because the oldest son has a lot of responsibilities as far as that, as far as keeping the traditions going and as far as managing the family and getting people together and all of that stuff is the eldest son's responsibility.
Yeah, I think of like if you see that movie, was it Coco, the Pixar movie or whatever, with the Mexican, the Day of the Dead and all that, and they have to do the ceremony for the dead. They do that kind of similar thing in Korea, but it's the son's responsibility, the oldest son's responsibility to host it, to have all the stuff, to keep all the stuff, to like visit the graves, take care of them. So it's like you need this guy, or you're not going to get taken care of in the afterlife.
Now, and if you are the wife of that guy, that's kind of trouble. Like, I mean, it's more work, and you hear a lot, like, because it's the oldest son who is, okay, we're having the dinner at our place, but it's not him that's doing the cooking. You know,
Yes.
still now, like that's even, you know, for me a little bit awkward if I go to. For me, it's because, you know, I'm not Korean, so we go to my wife's family's stuff for these holidays, and in general, like it's still that way that all the women are in the kitchen and the
Mine
men
too.
are sitting around waiting for stuff to happen, and like it's really awkward for me as a Western guy, right? Like I just sit there and don't clean up anything and don't.
I know, me too.
I just wait to get served, and we eat first,
Yes.
and then the women will come in after and they'll eat on the women's table, and then they'll clean everything up. And in my home, it's not like that at all. Like I'm doing the cleaning, and I'm doing the whatever. But
Exactly.
in the
Even
older
my house,
families,
yeah.
it's still that's still happening. Now the question about are women, you know, held back or anything? I don't think so anymore. I think now if you want to be, you know, if you want to be an engineer, if you want to be high ranking, whatever, there's certainly as many opportunities, and you know there's certainly the push to have women in roles of responsibility, and I don't think anybody's trying to hold that back.
I feel like it's a meritocracy now. It's a bottom line, and they're just like, you do it for us.
Yeah.
You're in. Like
Yeah.
we don't care about these guys.
Right.
Like some of these guys are useless now, right?
Yeah, right.
If I put it like that, I mean,
Yes. So there are maybe some different expectations when it comes to family,
yes.
but when it comes to work, yeah, I think there's kind of mainly equal opportunity for
Yeah.
the most part.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of things too, and I think that earlier one about the responsibilities with the family stuff, that led a lot of Korean women to kind of look to foreigners like they kind of have a fantasy of marrying a foreigner because then they don't have to do that.
Right.
But that kind of stuff seems to be changing now too, so they're not it's basically they're not held that responsible anymore. So I don't think that's as big a factor.
Right. I think that's definitely changing.
And I think with the influence of like Western culture more, like it's like a global place now, and I think people are like catching on to like, no, I'm not doing that.
Right.
So it's changing a lot, but still it depends on a lot of things. It's 50 million people, a lot of variety going on, but it is slowly changing over time. A lot different than us 20 years ago that we saw. Certainly, and change happens faster, and we'll see more of that probably as we go on here. So, and then just a little bit about the last names. Like they say their last name first, and then their first name. Like we say Jason Cresswell and all that, but they say Cresswell Jason. Do they have middle names? No. I'll just answer right. No, they don't. Is a wife expected to take her husband's name? What about the children? And what are some common family names in Korea? So this is we'll give a quick, feed about names.
Yeah. So names. So it's almost always three.
Yeah. 3 syllables, right?
3 syllables. Yeah, like three. Yeah, 3 syllables. And like you said, the family name comes first. When they get married, there's no taking of the husband's name. So the woman keeps her maiden name, and then the children have the father's name.
Yeah, typically.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah, I think.
I don't know.
I think you're kind of now. Maybe you're allowed to choose the other one, but I don't know of anyone who doesn't. So let's stick with that.
Yeah. So So no taking of the name.
No.
Children do the father's name, and common names.
Common names.
I mean, the Kim, Park, Che.
Kim, Park, and Lee are about I think 70% or something of all the Koreans in Korea.
Yeah.
But those have like a bunch of different Kims and a bunch of different Lees depending on where you're from.
Exactly.
So there's they understand how to distinguish the different various Lees. But those are the 3 names. And then you said Che, which is spelled like Choi.
Yeah.
People recognize that. What else we got? Jung.
Yeah.
I think is pretty popular. That's
else?
pretty much.
Yeah.
Those are pretty much
big
the
ones.
5 big ones I can think of.
5, yeah.
Do you? What are some more unusual ones that you've heard of?
Wow. I have a. See, this is a little bit difficult to describe, but I have a Che, but it's not spelt the same. It's not that.
Not the Choi.
Choi. It's like it's a different spelling of that name. So that's
all right. So that's a unique.
Yeah. Other ones.
Yeah, some of those that wouldn't be
Lim.
interesting to people.
Lim.
Lim
is
semi.
Yeah.
How about Kwak? Your wife's name. Is that really Kwak? Is that kind of unusual? I don't know that.
A little
too
bit
much.
unusual. Yeah. It's not unheard of, but it's certainly. I'm sure compared to those other 3, way down on the list.
I have a note on names to give something to that question. As far as like last names, whatever, but as far as first names now, it used to be the 2 syllables, but a lot of people go with the 1 syllable, trying to be a little unique, and a lot of them now are like throwing out 3 or more. Like I have a student named Rei Chel, right? Like they kind of put it out, like kind of creating names rather than some of the traditional names. So they're really branching out a bit.
But I would still say that I think as far as the topic of names goes, for me still like the kind of the most surprising thing would be that like 90, I don't know, over 90% of people, it's the three. It's the family name and then two things.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Like that's still kind of blows my mind.
All right, let's go for this one. So I'm going to play off this one, ask you about Koreans and Korean culture in general. So basically, what are Koreans like generally? Let's try to keep it tight. We got a couple more to get to here.
Yeah.
But like, what are Koreans like? How would you describe the Korean? Like, again, this is all general, right? This is never. I mean, again, 50 million people. There's so many unique individuals, but yet there is a Korean character, right? Versus, just like there's a British guy, an American versus a Canadian versus, an Australian. What are they like? And then what are Koreans like, right? So how would you?
Wow, that's such a
tough.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. What are Koreans like?
Like, how are they different from Western people? Maybe okay, maybe a little bit more. Like, will you have something? Or
maybe not so much.
Like, would you say they're a little bit more of a collective mentality versus an individualist mentality?
Yeah.
That's. I find like there's something too. People are somebody in relation to somebody else. Mm-hmm. I find like you wouldn't necessarily. You're like my older brother. You're not Jason. Mm-hmm. You're my older brother, or we call them mother. Or someone we call them, mother of this student. Like this girl's mother. You're not.
Maybe that would be.
You're not.
Maybe that would be like the kind of the big differentiating factor would be the rankings. And there's so many different rankings depending on different factors like age, mainly age. I guess that would be, like where are you? What is our relationship? And the relationship is based a lot on what age are you compared to what age am I? And so, like you said, I would refer to you as different. I would talk to you differently if you are older than me versus if you are younger than me. And that is even 1 year.
Right, which is us. 1 year.
Yeah, 1 year difference.
Older brother.
Yes. So
that kind of. Sorry, throw that out there.
Yeah.
JC,
I blew my cover. Yeah. So the ranking system is very much alive. Very much like they want to know very early on what is your age, so that I know how to refer to you. And it's kind of interesting, like you said, the way of referring is a family thing, though. Like older brother, older sister, younger sister would be kind of the translation of I'm your older brother.
Yeah, right. And that's another thing. See, they refer to each other as older sister when they're not even related. So again, this kind of it's collective more. So
and that's the other thing is certainly there is the group. The group is more important than the individual would be another kind of differentiating factor, and that goes when if you're thinking of social kind of thing, everything is kind of done together. If we're having a drink of soju, we're all doing it at the same time. Mm-hmm. Or if we're going to move from one place to another, like let's say if we were Westerners, we might say if we're like going from bar to bar. Let's say we're in an area where there's a bunch of bars. I might say, yo, Bolton, me and whoever, we're going to go check out blah, blah bar next door. Come over here. Come over after you finish your drink. And we would maybe go by ourselves first to that bar. And you might be hanging out there with a couple of other guys that we were there with. And you might come over to the bar after. But in Korea, that would be unheard of, basically. Everything moves as the unit. Mm-hmm. So that kind of social thing, right? The whole group moves together, the whole group acts together, and the whole, everybody, it has to be kind of enjoyable for the whole group as opposed to the individual.
Yeah. I've got an example just to kind of color this a little bit with a story. And we have some people, I kind of teach the guy conversation. He's a little older than me. And then their kids have come here. One of their kids has come here. So, Han, my wife, kind of calls his wife mother, right? Calls her mother, 어머님, and then she calls her teacher. Of course, that's what they're doing when they're arranging schedules and classes and all that stuff, right? And then we've kind of become friendly and hang out socially sometimes. And when we do that, she still calls her. She doesn't call her older sister, which she might. She calls her mother, and she calls her teacher, and she calls me Matthew teacher. She doesn't call me just Matthew, right? So it's like it's just they really keep together with the titles or something like that. It's very a big thing. So where we would just easily be like, oh hey Jason, oh call me Jason in this context or something, right?
Yeah.
But it just doesn't change. So I find that a little awkward. Not awkward, just different.
Yeah, different. And maybe another similar example to that would be in relation to what is your position in this situation. Another thing would be when a couple has children, the wife and the husband will suddenly often switch to calling his wife whatever the son's name is, mom. So in this, let's say you were my son, and I was talking to you. You were my son. Mm-hmm. Like I would refer to my wife as Matthew Amma. So like Matthew mother, what are you doing today? Matthew mother, can you pass me the salt? Mm-hmm. Matthew mother, can you whatever? Yeah. So she's no longer a person in some way. She's now her role is Matthew's mother, and the same she would call me Matthew's father. Matthew's father, blah blah blah. And it's also interesting when we get back to the importance of the oldest, the elder. Like if you have 2 or 3 kids, you know, you're still Matthew's mother. If you're the first son, even if we have 2 other kids, you're still Matthew's mother.
That's
right.
And
I'm still Matthew's father. Forget about the other ones. Like I'm like, what about me?
That's amazing. You know? Yeah, it is true. I see that with and whether it's like girl or boy, whatever, just the one you're
yeah. So that's and so it seems like in that situation, your most important role is you are Matthew's mother. Mm-hmm. Right.
I'll just throw one more thing I'd like to say, just more of the Korean mentality or character. But then, of course, there's a lot more people thinking of themselves as individuals now, especially younger people too. Like a lot. Again, I think about uni kids, and when they share about themselves, how they think about their lives, it is. I see a lot more of that now, and it's encouraging. But just generally, there's like a little bit of a shyness to kind of speak out and be kind of bold or kind of stand out, like the nail that stands out gets hammered down or something, that kind of thing. Like they have that. Do you feel that kind of thing where they're a little more like Westerners come over and appear loud and outgoing and kind of hey, what's up? But they're kind of a lot more reserved and stuff. Is there something?
Yeah, there's certainly the desire to fit in and not stand out, and you can see that when something becomes popular. It becomes very popular and very quickly, and you know, if there's a popular restaurant, everybody wants to go to it, or if there's some song that's popular, it's like on all over the place. So there's certainly some kind of conformity happening. Like when something is the thing, it's the thing for everybody. You might talk about the haircuts. If there's a certain haircut that's a popular haircut, then like everybody has the haircut.
Yep.
So yeah, the idea of wanting to fit in is very strong still.
Right.
Not exclusively, of course. There's
again we're so many.
But if we're just talking in generalities, yeah, more so than in the West, I would say for sure.
Right. Okay.
That's huge. Fit in and not stand out happens a lot.
I got one that I thought I might mention. You might notice that we're sitting here in our socks, mm-hmm. right, in the house, right, and while that might be kind of common in like Eastern Canada and other places in Canada stuff, in other like a lot of Americans are used to wearing their shoes in the house, but this Koreans is like there is no shoes. And I think of Frank Costanza on Seinfeld where he had his romance had broken up in Korea, and he was like saying, if you ask me, they place too much emphasis on shoe removal, right? So and that's it. And I have it's just something that's a little bit of a kind of a quirk or something, but it's very huge. Like even in restaurants, right? Tell me about a restaurant like where people take their shoes off. Why are they doing that? Just real quickly for the
I mean
versus the tables versus the other place.
You mean like the sitting on the floor? Mm. Yeah, I mean there's a lot of sitting on the floor that still goes on. The floor is, I guess, more used than we do. Like you'll have you can't see here, but Matthew's got a nice sofa over there. But I mean, a lot of times you have a nice sofa, but people will be sitting on the floor. Like when my in-laws come to my place, I've got a nice sofa. They sit on the floor. If the father-in-law wants to take a nap, not on the sofa, not on the whatever, he'll just nap on the floor. So the floor is certainly more of a of a used space. And like you said, in the restaurants, there's still a lot of restaurants where you sit on the floor to eat. So obviously you must take off your shoes before you going there.
Yeah, and it's brand new ones even is what I want to emphasize. It's not just like, oh, they're still around. It's like the brand new ones come out and they're all beautiful,
Like
modern.
in general, I think,
and then they have a section for that.
I think Koreans are more comfortable on the floor than in other places.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do is when they have families and kids, they think it's a lot easier, more convenient to have the kids running around, like not in a chair or something, like when there's young kids and they sit down. I don't know.
Oh, could be that.
There's stuff for that.
And I think it has a lot to do also with the heating. Like the heating is floor heating, right? Yeah. So when it's wintertime, all of the heating is like under floor heating. So that is the warm place. Like that's where you want to be when it's cold out. The closer you can be to the floor, the warmer you are.
I wanted to share a quick story just about the socks, just for fun. That's what we're trying to do, have some fun. And I remember when I had my place along one of the first ones, one of my first contracts, and then I had it's owned by the school, and they place you in a little tiny apartment and all that. But I guess I needed a new washer or something, so they had one sent over because it was broken. And these guys were coming to deliver the washer. 2 guys coming off the street from their truck, carrying this giant washer and like struggling. They were shuffling, and they walked into my house and they started like trying to rip their shoes off. And I was like, "God, what are you doing? Go! What is he doing?" And they were like, and they took them off and they came right in. You can't touch ground, touch floor with your shoes on. And people, we had an American girl come here with our friends to visit with them from they were my friends Canadian, and they live in Thailand, and they came over and they brought an American girl with them. We all went on traveling and all that, and she came into our house here, and it was just kind of came in with their shoes on right away, and it was just kind of I felt really awkward myself, which I wouldn't care if it was in Canada, but I just felt it's just so ingrained now, isn't it?
Now I'll say personally, I mean, I don't know, it's because I grew up in a place that gets a lot of snow. There was no shoes going on in my house.
Yeah, I know, and it is true. A lot of
for me, I'm on the Korean side here, not as strongly. Now, if it's not a rainy day or summer, and I forgot my phone's over here, I'll feel okay about walking in with my shoes on to grab my thing. That's about but even that's like
I feel awkward
I'm on
doing
my
that here.
tiptoes or something like that. But I think that goes for me like before Korea too. Like the idea of being in the house or on your bed or with shoes on, it doesn't make sense to me.
But Americans,
are
down
with that. Yeah, and it's not even comfortable. Like I want to get my shoes off as soon as I can.
Okay, well there you go. Yeah. But there's a heightened version of it here, right?
Very much.
So yeah.
Oh yeah, like you can't be stepping on the floor.
Okay, so we got a couple more to go through here, and I got one here. I got to give a special shout out to Kendra Gillis Walker from Halifax. So Nova Scotia represent, right? And by the way, speaking of Nova Scotia representation, do you think how many East Coast people do you think are living in Korea? Before we ask Kendra's question, so.
Wow, that's a tough one.
I mean, not how many, but just give an idea. Like, there's so many, right?
What I would say is amongst our like kind of foreign community, when you meet, especially Canadians, it's like, oh, where you're Canadian? Oh, okay, where are you from? There's a lot of East Coast for sure. Like, I would say, more than there should be. More than there should be.
more than giving population.
If you were to base it on population,
yes,
way more represented than other places for sure. For sure. So I don't know if like East Coasters they like to travel, or maybe it's the job availability is one theory of that, or just the type of whatever personality of an East Coaster. There are a lot of people from the East Coast.
Yeah, everybody will have their hypothesis.
More if you were to break it down by the population, it's not equal.
Yeah, even in Daegu, which would be where you started out, that's in the southern city, it's like smaller compared to Seoul. It's quite a big city still, but even that place, especially in 2002, where you said there wasn't a lot of foraign stuff. So Seoul is the Mecca. That's kind of a place that's still a little bit not as hospitable to foreigners. There were loads of Nova Scotians down there, right? Yeah. And the same thing as these days. I mean, even our ball team has a lot of had so many New Brunswick and Nova Scotia guys, recently in the past couple of years. It's just amazing.
Like way more than West Coast. Like I'm trying to think. Like, do you know anybody from Vancouver?
Yeah, a couple, right? Yeah, you get a few.
But way more. Yeah.
Unreal. But I just thought I have to say that just getting the Nova Scotia. I was like, man, just wait a minute though. There's so many because I don't know, and there are a lot of just expats in Korea in general from all over the world, and it's really exciting place to live for everybody. So she's asking. Kendra Gillis Walker is asking, what is the cost of living in Korea? is it difficult for foreigners living in Korea in terms of language barriers or other cultural barriers? So we got a lot into culture, but how does it actually affect our life, I guess? And then let's give the cost of living. We'll take it one by one. Cost of living, maybe?
Okay.
Yeah, we'll try that. Snap this stuff pretty quick.
I want to say that the cost of living is not too far off from Canada. With some things that stand out on the other way. I think it can be cheaper to eat out here if you choose the right places. Like if you're like, I don't want to eat at home, you can eat out at some restaurants for where you get served and where because there's no tipping is one thing, right? And
no tipping. That's a
no
huge
tipping.
cultural thing. Just to put that out clearly.
Yeah,
No
no
tipping.
tipping.
You kidding me?
So I think if you want to eat out, like I feel like back home, if you're eating out at a place where there's somebody who's serving you the food, then it's kind of expensive. But here, I think there's more choices where you can go and get somebody else to cook for you, and it's not prohibitively expensive.
Big
so
time.
there's that. But if you want to have more of a Western style meal, then you might be paying as much as or more than you would back home. So that's like kind of one thing. So I would say you have some advantages for cost of food, cheaper in some places or cheaper in some formats than others.
And by contrast, I'll just add on the flip side that at home, say in Canada, it's a lot cheaper to buy groceries than it is in Korea. So it's almost like you kind of want to eat out more here.
Yes.
Versus
there,
right?
Yeah.
So
I would say one thing that's more expensive here, I think, is the price of gas. Mm-hmm. Like the per liter price here, I think is always quite a bit more expensive here than it is back home. So to have a car is a little bit, although the service cost, like going to a garage or getting your car fixed, is a lot cheaper, but the cost of gas is more expensive.
Yes, service stuff. Anything to do with service.
Anything to do with service
cheap.
is way cheaper here than it is back home.
Yeah, that's huge.
But I think the things that are more expensive, the things that are cheaper, in general, I think it kind of balances out where, like if I were to say cost of living in Philippines, I think we could definitively say way cheaper, right? But I don't know between Canada and Korea. I don't think there's that big of a difference.
No.
Would you?
No, I agree
same
completely. I would say it's basically the same cost of living. It's just a matter of what
Where it's
things,
going,
right?
yes.
So, like housing is a good example. Maybe you'll speak to that for a minute. Housing real estate is wildly expensive here, and for the same price that I pay for this one flat of an apartment here, right, with a few rooms, or whatever, you could get a giant house with a big yard, right?
Yes.
And it kind of blows
Outside
through
of Toronto and
a little bit.
Vancouver.
Well, outside of Toronto or Vancouver, yeah, but it's most places in the States or Canada, you're looking at a house and a yard, and I tell people, I'm like, look, if you want that, but you're missing out on a lot of other things, and we're going to get into that in a minute about some of the conveniences of living in a highly densely populated place.
Now, there's a second part to the question.
The second part was about the language barriers, and I thought I would take this as an example, maybe a little segue to tell us about your own language acquisition, because amazingly, I've lived here, as I say, about 17 years, approaching 18, and my Korean is it's a suspect, let's say, right? Now, Jason here, as we said, he deals with his wife in his life, basically in Korean, right? And that's just unreal for a lot of foreigners to imagine. So it's quite an achievement, but you obviously established that early on when you were in, and I think this is a good way to look at, this show too is about how do we take on long-range goals and how do we approach things. What was your approach when you thought of that? What was your motivation too? Give me the kind of lowdown of how you were motivated and how you attacked learning Korean.
Yeah.
Learning a language like this.
Yeah. So, like I kind of said before, I came here thinking the first year that it would be not easy to learn, but that I would just learn by being here. You think, oh, well, you're amongst the people, you can listen, you hear. There's none of that, right? So
Matthew, 18 years, you must have picked it up, right?
No,
you must be pretty
good.
good.
Yeah, 1 year. I thought 1 year, I'd be able to have some conversations and stuff. It's nowhere, because it's first of all, it's so different from English. So there's no picking up as you go along. And like you said, even, people are here for 10, 20 years who can't speak Korean. So it definitely requires like a real effort. It's not happening without that. So, so my motivation, I think, after the second year was, I thought, the second year I came, I was like, I think I'm going to be here for a few years, so I might as well put some effort into this because it is frustrating. And personally, I don't like asking people for favors about anything in general. That's just my style, right? I don't like to ask people, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? So if you can't speak the language, everything you have to ask somebody to do something for you. So that was kind of part of it. I think part of the motivation is like, I don't want to ask people to do something for me. I want to be able to do something on my own. And if I'm going to be here for a few years, I better get on this. And so that was my initial reasoning. And then I guess the method was more just consistency. So for a long time, it's just like daily practice, daily doing something. I used to try to say, okay, I'll only do like 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and then maybe sometimes it extended into an hour of study or whatever. But the trick was to do it consistently. And every time somebody asked me either how do I learn Korean or how do I learn English, that's my go-to thing is you just have to do it daily, like a little bit every day for a long time, then you'll get it. But it seems very simple. It doesn't matter what book you're using, doesn't matter what system you're using. You just have to do it for a long time and with some consistency. And that's what I did for quite a long time, like several years, I guess, before it was really something started to happen. And there is some frustration with that too, because you spend a lot of time doing it and you realize, I have nothing yet. I've been doing this for however many months or a year or something. I can't even have like the most basic conversation yet. And there's that point where you kind of get frustrated and you might just say, screw it, I'm not doing this anymore. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what a lot of people do. But somehow I was kind of managed to push myself past that to a point where I remember once, like, I had a conversation, like something back and forth. Like, I asked something, they answered, and I went back. It was like, whoa, okay, something's happening here. And then a big one for me was after that happened, started to be able to have some really small conversations. I remember going snowboarding once and going up the gondola with a guy, some Korean guy, and we started talking, and we were able to have some, not good, but some kind of conversation the whole ride up. And I was like, oh my God, I just had kept something going, some kind of a conversation as basic as it was for the whole ride up the gondola. I'm starting to get something here. And then it kind of just goes from there.
That motivated you more, though?
That motivated me more, for sure.
Okay, yeah.
For sure. And also the other thing that motivated me more, so that's the I felt like every time I learned a new word, like in the early stages, like one word almost felt like I've upgraded my life. Mm-hmm. Just by knowing this one word, I've like made my life here like this much percentage better. Like things have gotten easier. So it really felt like just every little upgrade was something new that I could do, something added to my arsenal or whatever. It had these real jumps and that's what I tell people. Like, if you learn just some Korean, like every little word that you learn, it really, like, that word upgrades if you could just have one more word, it's just better.
I've said a lot over the years that the quality of my life increases to the degree that I learn more Korean.
Right.
It just opens up and just becomes more enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah, and as far as, like, I think the question kind of talked about that, like, quality of life or the, like, what is it like, the language barrier.
Yeah, cultural barrier.
It sucks. It sucks to not be able to live here and not be able to communicate. I think it's very uncomfortable. Right. Because, like I said, you're dependent on people to do stuff for you. Mm-hmm. You have to ask somebody to do something. I mean, because there's not that much English here in the general everyday life. You have to be able to do the Korean part. So without it, I mean, you're stuck a lot of times asking somebody to do something for you.
Now,
lack of independence, and you don't feel like a person. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I get it. I want to add a bit on the as far as like how you do get by, people who don't speak Korean and all that. There is quite a bit more English now, especially like these days, and certainly not 20 years ago, but a lot more these days, especially in the bigger cities. You get mostly somewhere, wherever you are, there's somebody that can kind of, maybe they can get by in English, right, the kind of way you were originally getting by in Korean. and you can do it enough that way, but you're still very restricted.
Yeah.
And the second thing I'll say to that, which I say to foreigners all the time, is at least learning the alphabet, the Hangul, the alphabet, which you got me drilled on the first week, and in one of the days, and I learned in 2 hours. After 2 hours, I was looking out the window reading signs, and I've heard people say, "Oh, you can learn Korean in an hour and a half or whatever." Fine, an hour and a half, 2 hours, you can learn the whole alphabet and start reading. And I say to people that the half of the world, maybe half, I don't know, opens up to you, because a lot of signs, places, buildings, everything, it's just written in Korean. It's English words in Korean, as you know, a lot of it, and you just kind of things pop up, so you don't have to know all the vocabulary.
Right.
So even that, and just generally getting by, like, what's that thing that you're reading, products and stuff, you can just get a sense of what it is, because a lot of them are named in English.
Yes. Or just
Korean characters.
food names. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So and you're reading menus and stuff, right? You go, "Oh, I've heard of bulgogi, I've heard of, whatever." So that's what that is.
Yeah.
So it's just opens up your world
Yes.
for a very small price. But then to get further, like where you are, it costs a lot more to get that next level.
And
Thing.
another big thing that I always say is the culture. If you want to understand a culture, you have to understand the language. And if you want to understand the language, you have to understand the culture. So they're so connected. Like, because there's expressions in Korean which we don't use in English. And that's because it's connected to the culture of, like, I don't know, like there's nunchi or bunigi or these kind of concepts, which are very, Korean culture concepts, which if you don't understand that word, you don't know what is going on around you. And then if you don't understand the culture, you don't understand the word. So you have to be out there with people and in certain situations to really be able to get, like, the idea, like bunigi is like the atmosphere, right? But the atmosphere here, like, when we go back to the group thing, right? So if we are all out drinking together and somebody's like, bunigi is not good, the atmosphere is not good, well, that means, like, the whole group atmosphere is not good, and that's disrupting, that's a very big problem, because we're all supposed to be in this group and we're all supposed to be having fun together, right? So if the bunigi is off, then that's a very big, but if you don't understand that word, and somebody says, 지금 분위기 좀 안 좋다, it's like, the bunigi is not good, like, why is that important? First, because the group atmosphere is important, and then what does that word mean? Oh, I understand how important the group atmosphere is, so then you can understand the word. Right. You know what I mean? So, so it goes hand in hand, like the culture and the language, you have to know both to understand both. So the more you understand the culture, the easier the language is. And the more you understand the language, you understand what's happening in the culture.
And I think, and I talk about all the time, that we speak a lot of what I call Konglish, Korean English, but that's not what many people mean by it. I mean that we say English sentences and throw Korean words in there because there's no concept that exists in English for us, and it's more convenient for us to use that concept.
The Korean word identifies what you're trying to say a lot more clearly.
And then I also earn a lot of free credibility from my students when I kind of use some words sometimes and throw out little jokes and things that I know in Korean. You just kind of up it. So anything, but I will say to the question again about the cultural barriers. Again, like what I understand about culture increases my quality of life and my ability to connect with Koreans and live a better life here. And it's better every year. So after 1 year, people might experience something and learn a lot in a year, and then another year, and then 18 or so years. But at the same time, if you come to Korea now, I don't think there's much to be nervous about in the way of there's going to be a lot of cultural barriers and I won't really be able to succeed or something. I think you can really, people come here and do very well. I think it's very westernized place, you know what I mean? Like more than people would think. Like it's a lot, it's wildly modern. We're going to talk about that as a final thing here. And so I don't think you're in any trouble as far as cultural barriers, like being held back really or anything.
No.
What'd you think? Yeah.
I just think you can upgrade so much. Upgrade your life. Like if you're going to be here for a while, you can upgrade your life a lot.
No question. And let me ask you this one. Speaking just one more thing about foreigners coming here, and this show is Mr. Brightside, and I talk about optimism versus pessimism. How would you say, how important is it to bring an optimistic attitude, and how would you compare this pessimistic attitude we've seen in terms of living here and your experience of living here and the kind of people we've seen over the years and stuff? Is there anything you can speak to that?
I can speak to a guy I know pretty well, which is this guy.
Okay.
Maybe like when you mention that, I the first thing I think of is my first year here, and my first year was like a standard contract is a 1-year contract, right? And after the first 6 months, I was like, I'm out of here. I want to go home. This place is not for me. So with generally, and that's a very kind of homesickness kind of thing. There's a very typical pattern that you see is the first couple of months, everything is new and you're bright-eyed and everything seems so, wow, oh, this is amazing. But then after you get used to that, it can settle in where things are not, so exciting anymore, and it kind of turns into your everyday life. And then at that point, you start focusing on kind of the bad parts, the negative things, the things you don't like, the things you miss, the things that annoy you. And that happened to me too. The first year, like after 6 months, I was like, nah, this is like, I'm out of here. And I talked to a friend of mine back home, and he was like, no, you signed a contract for a year, like suck it up and finish your contract. Like I was like,
suck it up, Cresswell.
On the plane home, basically, right? And I thought he was going to give me the green light to do that, and instead, I got the suck it up speech. And so I was like, oh, so kind of shocked. I was like, oh yeah, what am I, like, I realized that I was looking at all the negative stuff and I was kind of focusing on that. And so for the second 6 months, I kind of made the decision there, okay, I'm going to start, again, doing different things, kind of exploring more, going to different places, try to meet people, try to get involved in other things, and look at the bright side. Mm-hmm. Like I made a conscious decision after that phone call that that's what I got to do, because I realized, oh, I am being like a negative Nancy here, and so that's what I did the second 6 months, and then all of a sudden I started having fun again, and the idea that seriously, like 6 months I thought that was it. That's all I was going to be, and now it's been 20 years. Mm-hmm. So I would say that it's very easy here to find stuff that's annoying. I do it every day. The stuff that annoys me, the stuff that I don't like, the stuff that, that I miss. I don't miss too many things anymore, but because everything's here now almost. But there are things that I don't like, and it's very easy to focus on that. And a lot of people do. So when you're talking about like the kind of people that come over, yeah, a lot of people do look at that stuff. And if you want to do that, I can list a whole list of things that I don't like that happen a lot of times here. But I think if I was back home, I could probably do the same thing too. But the problem is when you're just focusing on that, it's too easy to find those things. So you have to kind of keep control of your own mind and see what am I looking at? Am I looking at whatever? I don't like the driving style. This guy cut me off. I can focus on that. And and you get caught doing that sometimes, but also, all the good stuff is there too. So it's just a matter of what you're focusing on, for sure. But a lot of people, I don't know if it's because you get homesick and you're kind of looking for an excuse and you're looking for a way out. That happens sometimes. You're not happy in your own life, and then you can very easily find things that you're not happy about in Korea, and you blame it on Korea. There's some of that going on too.
And I find that we've seen enough of these people, and we've done well to kind of drop them after an early enough time. But I think that those kind of people they just do that, exist like that anywhere. So they just think, oh, if I were home, it'd be better than this. But then why'd you come in the first place? So they're just not going to do well wherever they go. Right. And I've kind of recognized that. I've seen a lot of that here, and I think Korea, like anywhere, is really what you make of it. I mean, that's my whole belief. Of the whole idea of the show is anywhere you are in your life, you can make it something great, because life is good, I'm telling you, right? And certainly life is great in Korea. And I want to kind of wrap the last one. It's not really wrap because there's a little bit in this, but it's the final one. And another listener asked, because I've said a few times, and the person's heard me say that, is it true that Koreans wait for nothing? Because that's what I say. And I guess I would like to just give a couple really exciting things about the pace that Korea moves at, and the kind of some examples of the service and speed that the world that it develops here, like cities popping up everywhere, this kind of thing. What is like Bali culture, right? What does that mean? Tell us what that is.
Stole my move.
Well, what is it? And then can you describe it? And then we'll give a couple examples, and then we'll wrap up here.
Yeah. So, like you said, Bali Bali. I mean, if you translate that, it means hurry, right? And I think in general, Korean people identify themselves as that, right? Like many Korean people will say we're Bali Bali, like that's our culture. And I don't know when that started. It could be like after rebuilding, after Japan's occupation. It was like, hurry up, we gotta build stuff up here. Like after the war, we gotta build after the Korean War. Maybe it's like we gotta build stuff. Hurry up, let's go. And it might have started from there, but I'm not sure exactly when it started. But everything here is about let's get it done. Let's get it done now. There's no time to waste. We're in a hurry, and sometimes that's good, sometimes not. But yeah, it's a big, when we were talking about earlier, like what is the culture? That could be one example of what we can say is like everything is about getting stuff done right away, efficiently, quickly, and that can include driving. It can include building stuff, making stuff, but there is very little patience for wasting time when it comes to getting something done. Like when there's something that can be done, let's get it done now. Mm-hmm. Whereas back home, it's slow. Like we are in no rush. You really realize that after spending some time here, right? Like I talked to my sister. She needs to get glasses for her son, and she makes an appointment with the optometrist, which is like a couple of months away or something like that. You make an appointment to get, and then you have to order the glasses. I mean, I guess there's quicker services too, but generally the process is you wait for some time to get the glasses, whatever, right? But here, like she came to visit here, we went where I was living at that time. We went across the street, 5 minutes from my house, and 5 minutes to almost from any house in any place, and eyes got tested, and the glasses were ready in an hour. Right there, right? Like didn't go to some other place like that, and that's just normal.
Right.
So,
yes.
If I need glasses, of course my glasses, I'll just go, and it's like an hour and a half project to go get glasses. Right. That's one example.
I know. If you told Koreans your sister's story,
yeah,
it'd blow their mind.
Yeah,
blow their minds.
Right. Yeah. So so any of that kind of
blows my mind a bit. I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
I guess I've been here for too long.
I know. Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we always talk about the delivery, and it's getting faster and faster. I mean, what you ordered.
Yeah, so I had I'll give you a coupon. So Coupang is one of the big ones. There's a lot of
It's like an Amazon. It's like an
Amazon delivery service, right? So you go to their website and you buy things from them, but they're not really the sellers, right? So it's various sellers, and they're just the kind of medium.
Not always.
The agent.
That is,
they do sell stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So they sell lots of stuff. Yeah. Well, just like Amazon, I guess, sells stuff, right?
Yeah. Amazon sells their own stuff, and then there's also other sellers. Yeah.
In any case, they deliver, and there's lots of different TechBay companies. TechBay is the delivery service kind of thing, and then there's a bunch of them. Coupang is a big one. I'll just use them as an example. And then they've upgraded to Coupang Rocket, and that's this one where you can kind of order. We had this one where now if you order before maybe 10 a.m. in the morning, you get it that afternoon. Or before 6 that day, guaranteed. Right? So we got, what was it? Eva's, our cat, we got a couple little, like a scratch thing for her and a new little house thing that she can live in. She ordered yesterday morning at like 9:30 or something. What can you say? Go ahead. What did we? 9:14 and it arrived when?
It's a fresh food actually.
Oh, her fresh food and all that. It arrived at like 2 p.m. or something, right?
Yeah, they say they guarantee deliver by 6 p.m.
They guarantee delivery by 6 p.m.
If you order before 10 a.m.
If you order before 10 a.m. And then the other night we were here and
same day now. This is not 6 p.m. the next day. This is.
And we were here the other night and it was like just about 9 and my wife wanted a glass of milk and I thought, oh yeah, I think it might be the end of the milk. And she goes, oh, do you need milk for your coffee in the morning? I usually put it in my coffee. And then I thought, whatever, I'll just drink black coffee. She goes, no, I'll just order some, right? It'll be here. And I was like, what? And it's again, if you order before 10 p.m., right, it's guaranteed to come by the next morning. And typically it comes, by 6 a.m. is guaranteed. And it was. I was out at 5:30 in the morning. It was there. And actually, it had come at like before 1:30 or something. They'll send you a picture. So the guy goes there and he takes a picture of your door with the package. And she said sometimes they do it with a flourish. They put the hand out, right? But if they're joking, but it says the time shows that they're at your house, drop the package off. So later when you wake up, you can say, oh yeah, they were here at 1:30. So she ordered it at like 9:15. It came at 1:30. Just milk.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff, but like, and I'm telling these two stories. It's not like this is crazy. These two things. This is just I can tell you 100 stories over and over. Oh, I need whatever, and yeah, it'll be here tomorrow.
Yeah. And then I guess the popular one you see on TV, something like the DMV, right? Back
Yeah.
to go get your license or whatever. Like it's always the big joke. If you go to the DMV, you gotta wait forever, and it's like the slowest thing. And in what's that movie Zootopia, they do, the sloth is working at the DMV.
Oh, is that right? Okay, that makes sense. I haven't seen that.
So here, I had one thing too where I had my license and I let it expire. Right, and I was just like, and I avoided going. I knew I had to go, and it was this big thing. This is a whole different, topic of, get things done. But anyway, I was like, I got to go, and I just had built up in my mind that it was going to be this nightmare where I'm going to have to go and do, I don't know, some driving tests or whatever because I let it expire. Anyway, I thought it was going to be this complete hassle, right? But long story short, I finally decided, okay, I just got to suck it up and go. And then I just went in there, and I had to pay like, I don't know, $20 or something like that. And within 10 minutes, I had my new license. Nothing. That's it. And the waiting time, maybe I waited 10 minutes for my turn.
Yes.
And then I went and I'm like, here's my license, is expired or whatever. She's like, okay. I had to sign some form, and then the license was there, like done.
Yeah.
Like with my picture, the whole thing, I had to bring a picture, and it was just done. And I had my license. Not wait for it in the mail to come, not like a temporary one until whatever. Just like, it's all just done. Mm-hmm. And painless.
Painless. I know. You avoid, but then you go.
But, yeah. So there's the story. One thing, of course, is like, you just avoid things and they're never as bad as you thought they were if you just get it done. But as far as...
It's a lesson to be taken.
That was my lesson of that day. But as far as speed and, that's the kind of thing. You just like, why waste time? Koreans are not having it. They're not having it.
No, they don't play that.
Yeah. Even like a passport. How long does a passport take? Maybe a day? A couple of days? Like to get a passport?
Yeah.
4 days.
Yeah, right. And then I think you can get it probably faster.
You get online now too, yeah.
Right, and it's not nearly as expensive as it would be back home.
Yes,
right.
So
Yeah.
there's all kinds, and I also want to just, on the point of this too, just the idea of these cities, just to give one more image. I mean, we could go on and give examples and images, but one more is like where this city where I live, Segyo, is like a newer city. It's about 10 years old, and Dongtan, the kind of broader city, it's kind of maybe a satellite of. Dongtan was like 15 years old, not even yet. Like it just, when we were living here in Seoul, it just didn't exist, and now it's this suburb of Seoul, but this giant place, and they've got Dongtan 2 being built now, which is 3 times as big as the original Dongtan, and it's just like operational within 2 years. There's a whole giant city, like bigger, as big as any cities that we generally live in, like at home, like any regular city in Canada.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
They're just going, like they're just moving and building and flying, and that's like when my dad visited 4 different times. He just would constantly go, the apartment buildings, the buildings, and what are they? Construction everywhere, and it's just really exciting. I find to be here when people are trying to progress quick. But you go ahead.
I'll give you another example. Opening the bar. I'm not sure. I've never opened a bar back home, but I have this idea of when you're talking about selling alcohol and like the red tape and the time that would be involved in all of that. From the time, I want to say, it was about 1 month that it took from the time we signed the lease to doing the interior and to get everything like set up for actually opening. It's like a month.
A month. Okay.
Because the only thing to get the license, the only real thing that it was the fire code. So once we were done, I think it was like maybe 70 or 80% of the construction, the fire department comes in and they say, okay, do you have your sprinklers, or do you have, depending on the size of the place, you have all your exit, whatever, whatever. The fire department comes in and says, are you up to code?
Yeah.
Yes. They give you a piece of paper. That was all we needed to get our liquor license, to open an establishment that sells booze.
All right.
It was it. And then I went to the city hall place, give them my ID, give them that paper, the real estate contract, maybe one or two. I don't know if there's any other documents. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're in business. Done. Done. Nothing.
All right. I know. This is how it goes, man.
There's no waiting months. There's no whatever.
Exactly.
It was just you just done.
Things move quick. People are not waiting. Yes, it's true. Koreans don't wait for anything. It is true. Officially. And we could go on and give so many more examples. I mean, 20 years of examples of just constantly how things are happening quickly for you. Now, this is not to say that Korea is the best place because it's, everything's great, right? Which overall it is for us, and that's why we live here, right? You can make a big case living at home and be like, why things that are so great there, and then so it's not about that kind of thing, like, oh, everything's so fast there and everything sucks at home and whatever. It's nothing like that, but and like I said, we could go on and on, but we're gonna have to wrap it up because we're going way over our time here, but whatever. It's been fun, and it's been a lot of stuff. And I want to ask people, if you have other questions about Korea, because we haven't not covered anything. If you have questions about Korea, Koreans, or Korean life, or anything you've heard here today at all, I think maybe the best place to go is the Facebook page, facebook.com/MatthewBolton.ca. We can, that's a great space to have conversations, and maybe somebody else will you can talk amongst yourselves and people who are aware or what you want to know. And I'll certainly be happy to get involved and answer more questions about Korea, something that was peaked here. And I wonder if Jason wouldn't even mind entering the black hole of Facebook just to specifically go to that page and maybe get involved in some of those and answer some of what you're interested in. And of course, if you found anything valuable in this, and you might think it might be interesting or valuable to somebody else, please share it with that person, or just share it at large, of course. Jason, do you have anything else you want to say before we go here? Before I give my final remarks?
Yeah, just to hop on top of that. I mean, if people find this interesting, or if they wanted us to dig into anything deeper than we did, because in this we've glossed over many topics. But if anybody wants us to, if they're curious about more things, or if they want us to dig deeper into anything, I mean, I'd be happy to come over and hang out some more. And this is a fun format to be talking about stuff. So, like you said, on the Facebook page, just have, give us some more questions, and maybe if it seems like there's enough interest in some particular topic, we can go and dig deeper and answer some more questions anytime. It'd be fun.
All right. Well, sure. I'm going to thank you very much for taking the time today. Jason does not live around me anymore, so this is really going out of his way, and it's made it way more fun for me, and obviously way more fun for listeners than just if I were like, so the next thing about Korea is this, and then I tell my thing. This is way better and great. So, and as to the listeners, and particularly young people, I want to kind of tell you something that I generally tell a lot of my students, right? Is that you've got one shot at this life, and it doesn't necessarily have to be where you grew up, right? You should find the place in the world that gives you the best opportunity to pursue your values, right? The things that you want to achieve, and to build the life that you want to build, the best life that you possibly can. So for Jason and myself, then, I'll say thanks for listening today, and I'll see you guys next time.
See you later.
Mr. Brightside, your time out to refresh, refuel, and refocus your mind and energy toward building an optimistic framework for flourishing. Life is good. It's up to you to choose the bright side.